Hello and welcome to another video from Dan's Tutorials. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at numbers for beginners, specifically on the iPad. With numbers on the iPad we have a user-friendly interface for organizing your data. It's feature-rich yet simple enough for beginners. Hopefully you'll see that by the end of the video. And it also has a similar interface to the other iWork apps, Pages and Keynote. So once you learn numbers on the iPad, I think you'll be able to pick up on relatively quickly because they share a lot of the same interface. Now, if you like what you see here, stick around to the end. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself and how you can help support my effort in creating these videos. All right, let's get back over to numbers. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the interface. We're going to get a bird's eye view of the interface and how we get around. Basically what we have is we have two different sections, I would dare say. The first one is our template chooser and then the actual spreadsheet itself. So let's go over to my iPad and let's go and create a new document. So I have numbers here on my iPad. So let's go ahead and tap on it. Now when you first open it up and you don't have a document open, what it does is it actually opens up like you're within the Files app on the iPad. I am within Numbers, but you're going to see that I have all of my different locations and I have all of my different folders here. So open up any one of my documents if they're in a different folder. But if you go and create a brand new document, all you have to do is just click on the Create Spreadsheet. And when you do, what you're going to get is the template chooser. And this template chooser has a number of different templates that will help you get started with numbers. And there's some pretty good templates in here. I would recommend taking a look at some of these templates. Apple did a really nice job in creating these. They are categorized, so you can go and tap any one of these to view templates from a specific category. And then also, when you do look at a specific category, let's go and take a look at personal here. What you can do is you can swipe over to the left to view more templates. So don't forget that you can swipe over to view some more templates in there. At the end of the video, I'll also show you how you can share your own templates or your own documents as a template, create a template from your own documents. All right, so that's a template chooser. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a document that I created earlier. So I'm just going to go and cancel this. I'm not going to create a new document. I'm just going to open up a previous document. And this document is right down here called Basic Table. And this is what we're going to look at next is the interface with a basic table. So what am I looking at here? Well, the first thing is I like to think of this as two different areas. On the Mac, it's really three different areas, but on the iPad, it's basically two different areas. I could just draw a line here and separate this out. Everything below here is on a sheet. So think of this as your canvas. And that sheet or canvas has different objects on it. So when you go and add a shape to it, you're adding a shape object. You go and add text to it, you're adding a text object. You add an image to it, you're adding an image. On top of that, this table here is also an object. So this sheet here comprises of all of your different objects. And like I said, think of it as a canvas. What you're able to do is move all around. It's like a blank canvas. Actually, not necessarily blank. You're going to have one table on there, but you can easily move that around. I'll show you how to do that later on. So that's our sheet, which has all of our different objects. You can have more than one sheet here. You're going to see that I have a couple of sheets, and if I want to add another sheet, all I have to do is just tap on the plus here. Those are like worksheets in Excel. So that's our sheet. Now above that, what we have here is where all of our different tools are for adding objects. So what I'm able to do is add different objects here. So I can go and add a table, a chart, a shape, or an image. All those are different objects. And in addition to that, anything that I have selected, I just tap on a cell here to select it. When I tap on that, what I'm able to do is format that. I can organize it. I can arrange them because we have different objects on that sheet. One might be on top of another, so you can go and arrange that one behind the other. So the toolbar gives us access to adding all of our different as well as formatting them, depending on what we have selected. Now the last thing I want to show you is in this area here. This is like a file menu on the Mac. This is where we can go and print the document. We can go and rename it. We can go and move it. So when I tap on the little caret here, this is called a caret, the arrow that is pointing down. When I tap on that, what I have is a menu that pops up, and then from here I'm able to rename it, I can move it, I can set a password on it, hide the comments, export it out, or print it. And that's all located in our toolbar. If you did want to zoom in and out, you can do that as well. All you have to do is just pinch to zoom in and out. So that is the layout of a spreadsheet using numbers. Again, we just basically have our sheet, which is our canvas, which contains all of our different objects, including tables and charts. And then we have our toolbar at the top, which is where we can go and manage those objects. We can add them, we can format them. And then we have our file menu. So that is the layout, or how we get around the numbers interface on the iPad. Now let's take a look at the anatomy of a table. Let's peel apart a table and see what the pieces are to a table. So I have this table here on this sheet. Now this table here comprises of a number of different pieces. The first thing is we have a title up here. That's the sales there. If I were to zoom in here, you're going to see that it says sales. That's the title. We can add a caption down towards the bottom. So I could add a caption down here, which is basically just a title for the bottom. I'll show you where that is shortly. Now these tables are comprised of cells. So when we go in here and tap, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. You're going to see that we have these cells here. So if I tap right down here, you're going to see that I selected that cell. The cells are arranged in rows and columns. So we have our columns here, and then we also have our rows. And where they intersect is the cell. So that's basically how a spreadsheet works. It works the same way in Excel. So we have our columns and our rows, and where they intersect is the cell. We can put whatever we want in these cells. We can put data, we can put text, we can put formulas in there. And then we can also format that. Now the last thing I want to mention with our table here is headers and footers. If we look here, you're going to see that I have this blue bar here at the very top. This is a header row. And basically this header row will tell me what is in each column. So I can see that when I look at this header row here, this is the product. And the product is going to be skateboards, scooters, bicycles. When we look at this header here, this is the revenue. If we look, you're going to see that I have all of the revenue down here. So it basically just gives us a label of what is in that particular row or column. So when we go over to this first column here, you're going to see that it's the date. So that is labeling what the date is for each one of those columns. So these are header rows and header columns. And basically what they do is they just kind of give us a label of what we're looking at. There's one other one, and that is called a footer. The footer is located down towards the bottom. We don't have one added in here yet, but I'll show you how we add one shortly. The footer is where we usually have summaries. So if we look here, you're going to see that I have all of this revenue here, and the header here tells me that it is the revenue, but what I don't have here is the total revenue. Well, what I can do is I can add a footer, and it'll give me total revenue. It'll add up everything in this column here. So the headers and footers basically just give us an idea of what we're looking at in the table, and they're very important. We really want to make sure that we add them, and all we have to do is just label them, and it makes it a lot easier to create categories, as you'll soon see. It's a lot easier to create pivot tables as long as we have them labeled with our headers. So that is the anatomy of a table. Basically, we have our titles, our captions, which just gives us a name. Then we have our cells, which are arranged in rows and columns. And then we have special rows and columns, which are called headers and footers. They kind of give us the label and maybe the totals. All right, so that is a table. Now let's take a look at how we can select our tables and cells. There's different ways that we can select this depending on what we tap, and we can actually make multiple selections. First thing we're going to look at is how we can select a table. How do we select this? Right now I have this cell selected. What to do is I would like to select the table itself. How can I do that? Well, basically, I think the easiest way to do it is just tap anywhere in the table. So again, I have this tapped here, or I have it selected. And then, if we look in the upper left-hand corner, you're going to see that we have this little orange circle here. That little orange circle allows me to select the table. All I have to do is just tap on it. You can tap on it with a trackpad if you have a keyboard like what I do, or you can just tap on it with your finger with touch. So I just tap on it, and now that table is selected. If we look, you're going to see that we have a blue dot here and a blue dot here, as well as right down here. That's telling me that that table is selected. From here, being that it is selected, I can actually take this circle here and move it around, and it allows me to move that object. Remember, this is just an object on that sheet or canvas, so I can move this around. I want to resize it. I can do that as well. I just take this circle here, drag it up, and I'm resizing that table. I can do the same thing over here. So that's how we select a table. Basically, what you want to do is just tap anywhere in there, and then you just go right up to the upper left-hand corner, tap on that dot, and then you can go and select that table. Now, what about a cell? Well, you saw how easy it is to select a cell. All we have to do is just tap on it. So I want to select this cell here. All I have to do is just tap on it, and it's selected. Pretty simple. If I want to select multiple cells, we can do that. All you do is just take this blue dot here in each corner, and then drag them around to select more cells. So I'm going to take the dot in the upper left-hand corner, and watch what happens when I drag it up. It's selecting more cells. And then, if I were to format this, it would format all of those cells that I have selected. I could add a background to it. I could add a border, things like that. Again, more on that in a little bit. So that's how you can select multiple cells. And then we can also select columns and rows. To select a column, what we do is we just go up to the top here, and we tap on the column. So I'm just going to go and tap on C here. And when I do, watch what happens. It's selected that column. I want to select a row. All I have to do is just tap on a row here, and it's selected that row. If you want to increase the selection, again, you're going to see we have these blue dots here. And then from here, I can go and drag them to increase my selection of rows. You can do the same thing with columns. So that's how we select cells and tables in Numbers with the iPad. Now let's take a look at how we can enter data into these cells. Pretty simple to do again. All we have to do is just tap in a cell. So if I were to tap in this cell here, all I have to do is just start typing. I do have a keyboard connected to this iPad, so I can just start typing, and it'll add it to that cell. Now, if you don't have a keyboard, what will happen is the virtual keyboard will pop up. Also, what you can do is you can bring up the virtual keyboard by tapping on this. So I do have a keyboard connected to this, but if I tap on that, you're going to see that I can bring up the virtual keyboard. So we can do that as well, even though I have a keyboard selected. If you want to enter a formula, pretty simple to do again. All you have to do is just tap in here, and instead of just typing, all you have to do is just hit an equal sign. And I'll talk a little bit more about formulas in a little bit, but watch what happens when I tap on the equals. I'm going to say this cell equals, and now from here I can go and enter in a formula. If I want to add a quick formula, I can do that as well by tapping on cell here, and then I can go and add a quick formula. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. So that's the basics of entering data, but we have a few more tricks up our sleeve here. In addition to entering data into a single cell, we can also use autofill. Now, what I'm going to do this is just create a new table. So I'm just going to go and create a new sheet, and I'm going to work on this. When you create a new sheet, it does add a blank table to it. So now what I would like to do with this table here is enter in some dates. I'm going to enter it in this column header. So how can I do that? Well, basically all I have to do is just go in here, tap, and I put in here 1/1/2024. And what I would like to do is have that go down 1/2/24, 1/3/24. I want to autofill it with dates. Well, there's an easy way to do that. I don't have to actually type that all in. We can use autofill for that. To use autofill, we have to have it selected, so I do have it selected here. And now there's a couple of different ways to do this. Now, I'm going to say that it's a lot easier to work with Excel if you have a trackpad as well as a keyboard connected to the iPad. So I'm going to show you how you do that first, because I think that's how most people will do it. And it's pretty easy to do. All you have to do is just move your cursor up over top of it. And when you move your cursor up over top, you're going to see this little yellow dot right there. That yellow dot is autofill. So again, I'm just going to move my cursor over there, and you're going to see that it shows up there. The center of my cursor, there it is. We can see that's the autofill. Now all I have to do is just drag this up or down. I'm going to drag it down, and watch what happens. We can see that it is autofilling in consecutive order there. We can do this with days. I'm going to undo this, and let's just go with Monday. And now when I move my cursor up over top of it, I drag it down, it's going to add Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It recognizes that that's a day. We can do this with numbers. So I'm just going to undo again. We just tap on this to undo. And I'm just going to put a 1 in here, but watch what happens now. You think it's going to 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But with numbers, you have to tell it a pattern. It doesn't know what the pattern is. So when I drag this down, it's just putting 1, 1, 1, 1 in there. So what do we have to do? Well, we have to put a 2 in here. And when I do that and select both of them, so I drag that blue dot down, now I have both of them selected. Now I go to this orange dot, it knows what the pattern is, and you can see it's added in there. If I were to go all odd numbers, I could go 1, 3, and it would put the next one as 5, 7, 9. It recognizes a pattern and puts it in there. So with dates and things like that, you just have to put 1 in there, but if it's a number, you may have to put more than 1 or establish a pattern. Now there's another way of doing this as well. What you can do is you can go to Cell here, and then when you tap on Cell, you're going to see Autofill. When I tap on Autofill, I get a little square there, and all I have to do is just drag it down. So it works the same way. This is if you do not have a keyboard hooked up. So this is how you can do it if you don't have a keyboard. So if I go over here and I type in here Monday, I want to autofill that. I tap on Cell here. You're going to see autofill. And when I autofill, all I have to do is just drag it to the left, right, or down, and it'll autofill in that proper direction. And the last thing I want to talk about with these cells is how we can merge cells. So right now, when we look at this, you're going to see that each one of these cells is a separate row and column, right, where they intersect. Well, what we're able to do is merge these together. So let's say that I wanted to merge. Make your selection. That's how you merge. You first have to make the selection. What cells do you want to merge? And then when you do that, you're going to see that we have cell actions. So these are all the different actions I can do when I have my cell selected. So I tap on it, and then from here I'm able to merge. And it's going to merge those into a single cell. If it's merged into a single cell, that will turn into unmerge. So we just have to select the cells that we want to merge and then go to our cell actions, and then from there we're able to merge them. So those are the basics of working with cells. Now let's take a closer look at how we work with formulas, tricks for adding formulas to cells. So I have this sheet here with these two numbers. Now what I would like to do is add these together, and I want to add them together in another cell. So let's just go with the cell below it here. Now there's a couple different ways to do this. We can use quick formulas, and then we can also create our own formulas. Let's first look at quick formulas. Quick formulas, all you have to do is just go and select the cell where you want to have the quick formula. This quick formula is going to be a sum. So I'm just going to go and tap on this cell here. And then if we go over here to cell, you're going to see that we have the option when we swipe all the way up to go and add some quick formulas. And I want this to be a sum. So all I have to just tap on sum, and we can see it is a summary of those two cells. So if I had more data in here, let's just go ahead and undo that. And we're just going to autofill this. So I just go up and I drag this down. And I want this cell here to be summary. How do I do that? I go over here to cell, and I go to sum, and now there is sum. I could also make it an average. Click on cell, and then we have average here. And now there's the average. So we have a number of different quick formulas, and it's very easy to add those in there. Now, in addition to that, we can also create our own formulas. To do that, what we have to do is we have to type in an equal sign. So I'm just going to undo this again. Just tap on undo here. We're going to do it again. And now what I want to do is create my own formula here. So what I do is I type in equal sign, and when I do, what you're doing is you're telling numbers that this is going to be a formula. And you're going to see that we have a new toolbar at the very bottom. This is where we can go and enter our formulas. We have all of our standard operators. It follows all the standard rules. And all you have to do is just put in a number. You can get your keyboard here, or what you can do is select cells. So if I wanted to be the first cell here times the second cell, what I would do is I would just select the first cell, and you can see it added it in there. And then I add my multiplication, and then I go and select my second cell. And now we can see that that is what the formula is. And you can put parentheses in here. You can build complete formulas in here. You can even add formulas or add cells from other sheets, not from other documents, but I could go into another sheet here and select a cell from another sheet. So if you want to connect different sheets together, you can do that as well. You can do that with formulas. Now with formulas, you may be wondering, what are the different formulas that we have available? I mean, I can see the standard operators here, but what we're able to do is look up formulas. When we look at this, you're going to see that we have this little FX right down here. When I tap on that, what I get is all of the different formulas that are available on numbers for the iPad. And there are a number of different formulas in here. And what Apple did was really cool is they give you a definition, they give you examples. So as an example, when I go to date and time, I want to see all the formulas that are available for date and time. I tap on it, and now we see all these different formulas. Days 360. That sounds interesting. I might be able to use that. If you tap on the I, you're going to get what it does, how to use it, and then even some examples. If we go over here, categories, logical information. You want to build an if-then. If it's this, do this. If it's that, do something else. Well, that's where you get these if. So I tap on the I here for if. If I just tap on if, it's going to add it to my formula. That's not what I want to do. I want to read about it. So what I have to do is I have to tap on the I, and when I tap on the I can see how it works. So I can see exactly how I can use that. So that's how you can look up a formula. And again, once you decide which formula you want to use, all you have to do is just tap on it. So let's go with if, and now you can see it added it in there. And now I have to go and select some other cells for that if. So that's how we work with formulas. We have quick formulas, we can create our own formulas, and then we can even enter formulas from other sheets, and we can look up what formulas are available and see different examples for them. So that's how we work with formulas and numbers on the iPad. All right, so we know what a table is. We can select our cells. We can enter data. The next thing that we want to do is we want to make it look. So let's take a look at how we can format our tables and cells and numbers on the iPad. The first thing we're going to look at is formatting a table. So what we need to do is we need to select that table. So I just have this table in here. Doesn't have any data, but that really doesn't matter. We're just going to format the table itself right now. And to select the table, how do we do that? We just tap anywhere. And then you can go and tap on this little circle here. But when you're formatting the table, you really have to select that. All you have to do is just go up to the paintbrush here, and when you tap on the paintbrush, it allows you to format the table. So again, we don't have to necessarily tap on the little circle here. All we have to do is just select a cell, a column, a row, anything in that table. And then from there, what we're able to do underneath the paintbrush is go and format the table. So what options do we have here? Well, we have some pre-styles in here. So what we're able to do is change the look of the headers as an example. Right now we have gray headers. Let's go ahead and make them blue. So I tap on the blue one here, and now we can see that it is blue. To work with the headers and footers, remember we have our headers and footers. You're going to see that we have header and footer here. From here, what I'm able to do is add more header rows, add more header columns. Typically we will have one, but let's just go ahead and add another header row. So I tap on the plus here and watch what happens. We now have 2 header rows here. So if I have multiple things that I want to label, that's how you can do that, by adding another header row. I'm just going to go back to 1. In addition to that, we can also freeze them. Now, what does freeze mean? Well, have you ever seen it when you're working with a spreadsheet where when you swipe up, the top row where all the labels are disappear? If we look here, you're going to see that that is not disappearing here. I could make this table really long, and that header always shows. That's because it is frozen. Same thing with this column here. When I swipe over to the left, you're going to see that it doesn't disappear. That's because it's frozen. This makes it really easy to see what the data is in a cell, or what type of data is in a cell, because you're always going to see that header and footer. So typically what you'll want to do is you want to freeze those. So all you have to do is just go back to the paintbrush. We go over here to headers and footers, and then we make sure that they are frozen. And then we have our footer row. I'll have a little bit more on that shortly. All right, so that is our headers and footers. I'm going to go back, tap on table here, and we're going to go back. Next thing that we can do is we can go and add more rows and columns. A couple different ways to do that. What I could do is I could just tap on these pluses and minuses here, and it'll add rows and columns to my selected table. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing that is actually going over to the table itself, and then you're going to see that we have these 2 vertical lines here. When I drag this over to the right, what it's going to do is it's going to add more columns. And then you're also going to see that we have these 2 horizontal lines here. When I drag this up or down, it's going to add and remove rows. Now, if there's data in a cell, you will not be able to remove that row or column that that data is in. As an example, let's just go ahead and put some data in here. I'm just going to go high. And now I want to remove some rows. All I'm going to be able to do is just remove that column and these rows. I will not be able to remove these here because that data is in there. So I'm just going to go to this here and I drag it over to the left. And that's all I can do. And if I go down here, I just drag this up, and you're going to see it stops where I have that high. So if you can't remove a row by dragging those around, that's just because you probably have some data in a cell. Remove that data, and then you'll be able to remove those rows and columns. Now we can also add rows and columns in between rows and columns. How do we do that? Well, let's say I wanted to have a column before before this one here? Well, if we go up to D here, you're going to see that we have column actions. This gives us some new actions. And these new actions allow us to go and add a column before or after that. So I could go and add a column before D, or I could add it afterwards. And it allows us to also hide columns, among other things. So what we have to do is we just have to select the column, and then you're going to see column actions, and then from there you can go and decide if you want to add some rows and columns or even hide them. If you hide them, column actions will also take you back to where you can unhide them. And of course you can do the same thing with rows. So I tap on a row, guess what you're going to see? Row actions. What do you think we're going to see when I tap on row actions? The option to add a row above it, add a row below it, or even hide it. And then, if we select the table, the last thing we can do when we tap on the paintbrush again, in addition to working with rows and columns and our headers, we can also add the title. You can see that caption is off. Remember I talked about captions. If I were to turn that slider on, it would add a caption, and then I can tap on that to change the caption. It's just text. I can also set if I want to have a table outline, if I want alternating row colors, which is what we have right down here, as well as if I want to have grid options and what the table font size is. The grid options are going to be these lines here. So basically everything to do with formatting is located under here for your tables. Now let's look at cells, what we can do with cells. A lot of the same options. So when I have a cell selected, or if I had multiple cells selected, if I go over here to cell, because I do have a cell selected, anything that I have selected, this will make changes for it. So if I had multiple cells selected and they had text in there, all of the text in there would be bold if I tap on the B. So whatever I have selected, I'm able to change the formatting. And the different options we have here are your standard options. I can change the size, I can change the color, I can change the justification. I also have my cell fill, as well as adding borders. So if I had 4 cells selected and I want to have a border around them, what I would do is I would tap on cell border, and then from here I can select which border I want to add, and then I can go and select the style, the color, and the thickness of it. So we first have to select what we want, and then we go and format it. And this is all for cells. Now in addition to that, we also have conditional highlighting. You're going to see that there's a button here. Instead of me formatting it, what we're able to do is have numbers format it for me automatically. Let's see what I mean. So when I go over to my basic table here, I have some numbers in there. So we're just going to go to the basic table. And I have these revenue in here. What I would like to do is set the color of these based on the number is in there. So if it's over $500,000, let's make it green. If it's under $300,000, let's make it red. If it's in between that, we're not going to do anything with it. And I want numbers to do this for me automatically so that I can easily see if I had good sales or low sales. How can we do that? The first thing is you need to select the cells you want to add conditional highlighting to. So in my case here, I want it for this whole column. So what do? I select the whole column. Now I go back up to Format here, because we're going to format that column. And then we tap on Add Conditional Highlighting. When I tap on that, what I can do is I can set a number of different rules here. We're going to keep it simple here. So if the number is greater than 500,000, I want it to be green. You're going to see it has a green check mark there. So that's the first rule. Tap on Done. Now I want to add another rule. So we swipe up. I go back over here to Edit, because we can have more than one rule. I go and add rule here. And with this one, I want the number is less than 300,000. And what do I want it to do? I want it to be red. So now I just make sure that that is red. I tap on Done, and watch what happens here. It automatically formatted all those based on the numbers. So anything that is red is under 300,000. Anything that is green is over 500,000. And it does this automatically. So if I go and change this number here, it's 396. Let's just make it 596. It's over $500,000. What happens when I tap on Return? It turns green. So that is conditional highlighting. Now we also have a few more tools with a pop-up menu. All we have to do is just long press on. I'm going to long press on this. And when I do, we get a pop-up menu. And then from here, I can select this. I can select all. I can insert. I can copy the style. I can format it. It's basic formatting like bold, italic, underline. It's not going to give you the full formatting that we have with the paintbrush here. But we do have some more options when we long press on it. All right, let's take a look at data formatting. This is another option that we have. With data formatting, what we can do is we can format the data. As an example, when we look at these months here, these are actual dates, but you're going to see that say January, February, March. But when I tap on them, you're going to see that it shows a date in there. What is happening is this cell is formatting, it's looking at that date and it's formatting it as a month. If we look at this cell here, as a dollar sign in there, numbers is formatting that as currency. So how do we set these formatting options, our data formatting? Well, basically what we have to do is we have to select the cell. So I'm just going to go and select this column here. We're going to change the formatting for this date. So I select the column. And then from here, what we do is we go back over to our paintbrush where we have our format options. And then you're going to see format. When I tap on format, it allows me to change the data format. So right now it is set to automatic. Well, let's say I wanted to have it be the actual date. All I have to do is just go over to date and time here. I tap on the I here, and when I tap on the I, what it allows me to do is set what the format is. So we're just going to go with a simple date. And now we can see that it changed the date here. Maybe I just want to have the month and the year. All I have to do is just tap on this here, and it changes it to the month and the year. If we go over to our currency here, I want to add decimal points. I tap on the column. I select all of the cells that I want to apply the formatting to. I tap on the paintbrush again. And then when we go over here to currency, I tap on the I, and I can go and set the currency options. So right now it's set for auto decimal. I'm just going to go with 2 decimals, and if we look down here, you're going to see it has 2 decimals in there. I'm actually going to bring it back to 0. So that allows us to format our data in there. There's a lot of different options for formatting the data. By default, what it's going to do is it's going to go into automatic. And it's going to try to figure out what you format it as. But you can easily just go and override that just by going to that format. And then we also have our last option under the paintbrush here is Arrange. With Arrange, this is where we can go and layer our different objects. Remember, everything is an object in a sheet in that canvas. So I could have a shape on top of a table. Well, if you want to have that shape be behind the table, you would have to go and move it to the back or front. So think of a deck of cards. You're moving those different objects, those different cards, in different places within that deck. This is also where you can go and position them and also lock them. So you have a lot of different options with Arranged. That's basically how we can format our data. We can format the table, we can format cells, we can format the data in a cell, and then of course we can also arrange it. Now that we know how to format them, let's take a look at how we can organize our data. We can categorize our data, We can also filter our data, sort it, and even create pivot tables. Pretty powerful tool, pivot tables. We'll just touch on it. But let's take a look at that. First thing we're going to look at is how we can categorize. So I have this data here, and it has bicycles, scooters, and skateboards. I would like to have that categorized by product. That'd be pretty nice to look at, don't you think? Well, all we have to do is select the table that we want to categorize. So I'm going to tap on this. That table is selected. I just tap on any cell, but that table is still selected there. And then what we do is we just go up to this tool here. This is the Organize tool. When I tap on that and I have a table selected, I can categorize it, I can sort it, and then I can also filter it. Let's first look at Categorize. I tap on Categories, and then all I have to do is just add a category. And what I want to do is I want to add it for product. This is why it's important to name them. Watch what happens, being that they're named. I go Add Category, and all I have to do is just tap on Product. When I do that, we can see that it is organized by product. Pretty simple. And when they're categorized, what I can also do is add a revenue per category. So if I tap in this cell here, you're going to see that I can add a summary to it, and it's going to summarize that category. So I can see what my sales were for bicycles, for scooters, for skateboards. So that's how we work with categories. I'm going to turn that back off. So I just tap on it again, and if you want to turn it off, all you have to do is just tap on the little slider here, and when you do, it turns it off. It doesn't delete the category. I can easily turn it back on, show it by tapping on the slider again. All that does is just hide it. So it decategorizes it. Next thing we're going to look at is sort. When we tap on sort, I can sort the entire table, which is usually sorted by a selected row. And then we can also add rules. So when I tap on Add Rule, how do I want it sorted? Tap on Product, and then if I want that product to be ascending, I can do that. So we have some different rules there. Another way of sorting, just quick sorting, is by just going up to the column, and then under Column Actions, what you're going to see is the option to sort. So we can also do it through our column actions. And then our last option is filtering. Filtering basically just allows us to hide. So what I'd like to do is I would just like to hide the bicycle. I want to look at the other two categories. To do that, we have to select the table again. So I have the table selected. I go up to that tool, and then we go over here to Filter. When I tap on Filter, I can go to Filter, and again, makes it really easy when you label them. All I have to do is just go Product, and then from here, I can go and hide whichever ones I want. So I'm going to go with Bicycle. And now we can see that the bicycles are hidden there. It didn't delete them. All it is doing is just filtering them. And if you want to show them again, all you have to do is just tap on it, and it'll show it again. We can also create different rules in here as well. So we have a lot of options with filtering. Last thing I want to show you is pivot tables. Pivot tables are really powerful. It's another way of categorization, but I like to use them as opposed to categorization because it basically creates another object without messing around with all of your data here. Let's see what I mean. So I want to create a pivot table out of this. So I tap on it to select the table, and then what I need to do is I need to get to Table Actions. How do we get to Table Actions? Well, I just tap on the little circle here, and when I do, you're going to see Table Actions. And when I tap on Table Actions, I have Create Pivot Table. When I tap on this, it's going to create a pivot table based off of this table, and it's going to be another object. So let's just go ahead and do that. Tap on it. It creates another object on another sheet, but it's related to the original. So all of the data is still in the original table. Now, right now, this doesn't look like much. It just says to add values to this table, view pivot options. All right, let's go and do that. So I just tap on this. And when I do, what I'm able to do is add different options. So what am I looking at here? Well, basically, we have all of the different fields that are available to us. And then from here, what we're able to do is add different fields to the columns. We can add them to the rows, and then we can add values. So let's just go ahead and do that. First thing I want to do is I want to select date. So I tap on date here. And now we have our date. And what it did is it automatically added it to the rows here. This is why we can see that they're in rows. But what we don't have here is any data. It's really not telling me anything yet. So now what I need to do is I need to go and add revenue. And I want to add it to the values down here. So what I do is I just drag revenue here down towards the bottom. And when I do, you're going to see that it adds that revenue in there. That's just the beginning. Let's go and add some columns in here. What I would like to do is add columns across the top here by product. So what I do is I just take product here and I drag it to the columns and watch what happens. Take the product, I add it to columns, and now we can see all of our sales by product. And if I wanted to rearrange this, I can easily just drag any one of these around to rearrange it. And again, it doesn't really mess around with the original data. The original data is still protected over here under my basic table. I can go and change that data. This will be reflected. The pivot table will be reflected. I can go and move these around. Say I wanted to have the dates in the columns and the products in the row. So now we can see I just reversed that just by dragging those around. So it makes it really easy to change our visualization for our data, pivot tables do, without actually messing around with our original table. There is a great template that you can use to play around with pivot tables. Just go over to the templates and you'll see a pivot table and they explain exactly what it does. Have a nice template for that. So those are our different options for organizing our data. We can categorize our rows, we can sort them, we can filter them. My favorite thing, though, is pivot tables. Pretty easy to use once you get the concept down. Just select your table and then go to Table Actions, add a pivot table. It'll create a new sheet, and then from there you can go and change the view for your data. So that's how we can organize our data. Now let's look at how we can chart our data. Basically works the same way as a pivot table. What we're able to do is build a chart, which is another object from our table. So let's go back over to my basic table here. And what I would like to do is build a chart. So now what I do is I just select what data I want to chart. This is probably the easiest way of doing it. So I'm just going to select my data here. Let's just go and drag this out here. I have my data selected. Now I want to create a chart, so I just go up here to Chart, and I select the chart I want. So I'm just going to go with the basic bar chart here, and we can change it. I'll show you how you can change it shortly, but we just tap on that, and there's my bar chart. That's how easy it is to create a chart. But this still isn't telling me exactly what I want. I just want to have the revenue by month. This isn't really telling me that. So what I need to do is I need to modify this. So now what I do is I just tap on the chart object. Again, this is another object, and I can go and drag it around. I can even move it to a different sheet if I wanted to. And then from here, I just go over to Edit References. I want to change my references. So I tap on Edit References, and now we can see we have all of my references there. All I want is this and this. I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that. So now all I have to do is just go up to the top here of those three, and I delete that series. I'm only deleting it in the chart. I'm not deleting any data. Do it again, one more time. And now I have my month, and I have the revenue. When we go back over to my chart, we can see that we have a nice chart by revenue showing all of the month. Now from here, what I can do is I can format this. So I tap on it, and then we go back up to the paintbrush here, and then from here, I can go and change the colors. I can go and edit the series. I can add a title, caption, show the legend, hide the legend. I can even change what chart type it is. So if I wanted to make this a line chart, I can do that. So let's go with a line chart. And now we can see we have a nice line chart. And then I can go and add a trend line to that as well. Tap on the paintbrush, and let's swipe up. You're going to see we have trend lines. Tap on that, and we're just going to go with a linear. And now we can see that my sales have kind of dropped there. So I might have to work on my marketing a little bit based on the trend there. So that's how we work with charts. Again, it works very much like pivot tables. I can go and change this around. I can go and move it, and it's not going to change anything with the original data. Now, this next feature is an iPad exclusive feature, actually iPad and iPhone exclusive feature. We can create forms. This makes it easy to enter data into a spreadsheet. With forms, what you can do is you can create a form which makes it very easy to enter data. So how do we do that? Well, let's say I wanted to create a form for this table here. All I have to do is just get back to my table actions. Remember how we created a pivot table? We tapped on the table, and then we went up to the dot here. And when I tap on the dot, we have table actions. And under table actions, we have an option here again called Create Form. When I tap on Create Form, it's going to create a new sheet, and in that sheet, it's going to create a form where I can easily enter data. So let's say you had a spreadsheet and you wanted someone else to enter. You don't want them to go actually into your table itself. What you can do is you can create a nice form for them to enter in the data, and then numbers will enter that data into the table for you automatically based on that form. So let's go ahead and tap on Create Form here. We can see it created a new sheet, and we have our form. So basically, I have my date, I have my product, power, units, and revenue. And what I'm able to do is just scroll through them. And if I wanted to add a new month, let's just go ahead and tap on some new data. I tap on the plus here, put in a date. Let's just go with 3/1/2021. That's, I believe, when it was. We're going to go with the product, and that is a bicycle. I could go with power, units. Let's just go with 10 units, and the revenue was an even 100,000. And now it just added that in there. So how do I know that it added it in there? Well, let's go back over to my basic table. I tap on it, and now you're going to see it added it in there. Now that's kind of nice, makes it a little bit easy, but you really don't know what the product is. You don't know what the power is. Wouldn't it be nice to have pop-ups there? Well, we can do that. We can also rearrange these, make it a little bit easier for someone to fill it in. How do we do that? Well, we have to go to the form settings. So we tap on the gear, and this is where we have our different settings. First thing we can do is we can rearrange them. We can go and add a new field in there. And then we can change the data format of these. Remember, the data format is where we can set what the currency is. We can also set what the date is, what it shows. Well, there's a data format called pop-up. So what I'm able to do is make all these pop-ups. So let's go ahead and do that. So all I have to do is just tap on the I here. Right now it's set to automatic. I don't want it to be automatic. I want it to be a pop-up menu. So I tap on the I, and we can see that it pre-filled it. That's what I want. So just go back, tap on it, and we can see that this is set for a pop-up menu. So let's go ahead and do that for another one. Pop-up menu. We can see it pre-filled it. That's what I want. Tap on Done. And now when I tap on Done here, watch what happens when I want to enter in the data. Tap on Done. I tap on Product. We have a pop-up. I tap on Power. We have a pop-up. And what it does now is it fills that into the table. So I can tap on the table here, or there is a shortcut. If you have a lot of sheets, you can also tap on this. When you tap on it, it brings it back over the table, and we can see it pre-populated that. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is how we can import, export, as well as share and collaborate. Let's first take a look at how we can import. Basically, what we're able to do is import a CSV file or even a Microsoft Excel file. Pretty simple to do. What we need to do is just open this up in Numbers. Numbers will recognize that as an Excel file and it'll import it in there. So how do we do that? Well, we just go back over to where all of our files are. So we have the left arrow there. And then from here, we just select the file that we want to open. So if I go to Desktop here, I have some Excel spreadsheets in here. This is an Excel spreadsheet. When I tap on it, what it's going to do is it's going to import that automatically into Numbers. Now, in some cases, when you do that, you may have some rules in there. So if I tap on this one here, the rules aren't completely compatible. It has some conditional highlighting that's not compatible with Numbers. So when I tap on this, it's going to import in there. But it's also going to tell me that there's a couple things that may be off, so you may want to check that out. So depending on how complicated the spreadsheet is, you may see some warnings there. All right, what about exporting? Well, exporting is pretty easy as well. Let's go back over to my recents, and we're going to go to my basic table. Let's say I wanted to export this out. To do that, we just go up to where our file is here. And then when we tap on the little caret, what you're going to see is export, and we have a few different options. From here, I can export it out as a PDF. I can export it out as an Excel, even a comma-separated value file. And remember how I said that you could save files as templates? I can also export it out as a template. So then I can reuse this as a new document. So that's how you can save them as templates. Now, what about sharing? If you wanted to share this with your other devices, all you have to do is just make sure that it is saved in iCloud. And then from there, you're able to open it up from your other devices. That's how simple it is. So if it's not in iCloud, let's say it's just on the iPad, what you want to do is tap on the caret here, and you want to move it over to iCloud. So I tap on Move, and what I would recommend doing is going to iCloud and then just saving it into your Numbers folder. So I would save it into here. And then on your Mac or your iPhone, what you're able to do is go into that Numbers folder, and then you can open that up. Now, what about collaborating? We can also collaborate. So I'm just going to get out of this, and let's say I wanted to collaborate on this with someone. I want them to be able to work on it at the same time as I am. In order to collaborate, all we have to do is we have to share this. So I just go up to the top here. It does have to be in iCloud. This is an iCloud feature, so I go up to Share here, and then what you're going to see is Collaborate. First thing that we need to do is set who we want to collaborate with and how we want to send that to them. So let's say I wanted to send this to someone. I'm going to go with Messages here, and I'm going to send it to my other account. So I just type in here Dan, and I send it to my other account. And then I just tap on this, and that other account, that other person is going to get an invitation. And then from there, what they're going to be able to do is open it up and collaborate on it with you. So you could be working on it at the same time. They don't necessarily have to have Numbers. They do need to have an Apple ID account, but they could go to iCloud.com and then collaborate with you through any online browser. So they don't necessarily need to have an Apple device. They do need to have an Apple ID. To manage this, you can see that I have a new icon up here. This is my collaboration or my sharing. I tap on that. And then from here, I can see all of the activity, any changes were made. I can see who made the changes. I can also set, if I want to share this at all, I can turn it off, and I can add more people, and I can also change the share options and share it via a link. This is a little bit dangerous because you don't need to have an Apple ID. Anybody with the link here would be able to open it up. So you want to be a little careful. It's a simple spreadsheet. You might want to just share with anyone with the link. They don't need to have an Apple ID. All they have to do is just open up the link, open up online, and they'll be able to work on it with you. But that's how you can go and manage that. You can also set if you want them to edit it or just view it. Now the last thing is let's go back over my templates. I promise you that I would show you how you can rename them. So what I'm going to do is go and open up my template chooser. I have my templates. Let's just say that I added some templates. I exported out a spreadsheet as a template. Well, when we swipe up, I have my two templates here. If I want to rename them or remove them, I long press on it, and then from here I can go and rename it and delete it. So that's how we can import, export, share, and collaborate, as well as share a document as our own template to reuse. So that is Numbers on the iPad. As you can see, it's pretty robust. It has a lot of the same features, if not all of the same features as the Mac version of it. In addition to that, it has a special feature where you can create forms to easily enter data. If you want to learn more about the Mac version, I do have a video that focuses specifically on the Mac version of Numbers on my site, danstutorials.com. Again, I hope that this was helpful, and thank you for watching. Now, if you are new to my site or new to my videos, and you like what you saw here, you may want to check out my site, danstutorials.com. I have over 2,100 videos on how to use your different Apple devices. While I have about 400 videos on YouTube, I've been doing this a lot longer online, so there's a lot more videos online. It is a membership-based site, but when you do become a member, you get ad-free access to all of my videos, so you're not going to see any of those pesky ads. You also get complimentary registration to all of my classes and AMAs, Ask Me Anything. I usually have 2 or 3 a month. I also have an AI assistant that is modeled after an Apple genius, so that may be able to help you if you have a problem with any one of your Apple devices. And then last, you are helping support a small business. It is just me. I'm sitting in a corner office. I turned a bedroom into a studio where I record these videos outside of my house. So if this video helped you and you want to help out support my efforts in creating these videos, check out danstutorials.com for more information. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope it helped you learn more about numbers on the iPad.